Welcome to The Way with your best era hosts, Ryan McKean and Brittany Green. The podcast where we dive deep into the world of legal business and marketing. So whether you're a lawyer, marketer, or business owner in the legal industry, this podcast is for you.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Brittany, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing well. It's a gorgeous spring day. It's supposed to be like 70, like the birds are chirping, buds are on the trees. It's going to be like green in a week here, and I am so ready for it. So let's make this episode a quick one and a good one so we can both get outside and enjoy this few days of spring that we actually get in Connecticut.
I agree.
In a month, it's going to be like a sauna outside for the next 3. So I am so happy about days like this.
Agreed. I know. My husband and I were taking our dog out for a walk this morning and said just that. We were like, these are the perfect days where we do long walks with our dogs. Sometimes we do 2 a days. You know, he gets really spoiled because, soon it'll be 100 degrees and none of us want to be outside. So we love it.
Yeah, you had brought this up in our community the other day about wearing a spring jacket, like it's a spring jacket.
Well, the joke was specific. I don't think you caught it because, of course, you wouldn't think about it from a movie. It was from Miss Congeniality. If you ever watched, But there's a running joke. Obviously, this movie's so old now at this point. But anyone who's been a fan of it, there's a joke in it where one of the pageant girls gets asked, "What's your idea of a perfect date?" Obviously, the answer was supposed to be like a romantic date and what you do on it. She says, "My idea of a perfect date is April 25th because it's not too hot and it's not too cold. All you need is a light jacket." And so the other day on April 25th, of course, tweeted that, put it on threads or whatever. So some people obviously picked it up as a miscongeniality, but also it is true. Like, she's not wrong that like the last couple weeks of April into May are the only times where you get to wear that cute, fashionable spring jacket that you don't need, that like serves no purpose otherwise.
By you say cute, fashionable spring jacket, I say file vine swag because they got this like nice Nike pullover. It's not a pullover, it's a zip up. I like zip ups more than pullovers. I know Alex Rua, Marissa's husband, loves his jacket. But yeah, like that's like my file vine jacket kind of day. For those of you who are not from New England, there are exactly maybe 5 or 6 days a year where a spring jacket is necessary. We typically go from like you need all winter gear to like t-shirt weather. Jacket is way too hot. But yes, like today is not even a spring jacket day, I don't think.
No, I wore my spring jean jacket this morning. It was still just a little brisk out to walk the dog. But yeah, by now it's burned off and just a nice t-shirt is fine. But you're not hot, which is like the important part. You can just be comfortable in the t-shirt.
Yeah, I was up in Boston on Monday with Marissa, and we were doing an on-site with a firm, and we were working on their workflows and their training and all of these things that every law firm goes through. And in fact, it was a law firm that, I was very familiar with the size. Like they're at a transition period where it's like they are their marketing is working. They have really good marketing advice. They take it, they execute, they invest in their marketing, which for a lot of firms can be a problem, right? They don't have a steady stream of clients. But this firm, like our firm, had solved that. And they were experiencing the problems of growth. We can't find the people we need. We can't hire fast enough. We don't have the training in place. And we don't want to turn away this work that we have worked so hard to get to make our phones ring in a very competitive Boston personal injury market. We don't want to give this up. So how do we spread that? And that's the opportunity that we were working on. But I was walking into the office with Marissa and I was like, I'm like, this is San Diego weather. I'm like, it's sunny, it's dry, a little bit of a breeze, but so comfortable. Like you could walk and you're not going to sweat. You're not going to freeze. It is delightful, delightful weather. And I'm here for it, Brittany.
Me too. It's those few days in New England that helps Noah Khan and all of us get out of the depression before we get thrust back into it.
Yeah. No, we are going beyond the season of the sticks.
Yes.
We are out of stick season and we are fully in the great divide
Yes.
here between winter and summer, which is our few weeks of spring.
Yeah.
And I'm so here for it.
Yeah. But yeah, you had a really successful meeting, I hear. Tell me about it with that
Yeah,
client.
it was awesome, and I can't go. I'm not going to go into detail specifically about this client, but what it, you know, everything that we do gets me thinking about other things. And one of the things that when we started Best Era, 2 years ago, when we sat down with one of our first clients, was, well, who needs to be on my leadership, right? And so if you're a big sort of corporate firm who have, ownership, and then you have your CEO, and then you have your COO, and then you have director or VP level positions, VP of marketing, VP of finance, or director, depending as the case may be. But for many law firms, like that is not the norm. Like they haven't achieved that. Maybe they don't want to achieve it. So, the question for owners can become like, well, who needs to be on my leadership team? And that's especially true for firms that maybe have one equity partner, like a true solo, right? Like, well, I don't have a director of this. I don't have a director of that. And, it's also true sometimes when we see firms that do have multiple equity owners, right? Like, should the leadership team be more than lawyers who have equity in the firm, or should it not be? Right. And sort of, you know, we wrote the way in really response to our first meeting with this one client, which is like, how do we take EOS, which really assumes director level positions, director of finance, director of marketing, director of operations, director of people. You can go on in terms of what these sort of titles are, but it assumes that, and you know who should be on the leadership team. And we really came down to making it sort of simple, which are, who are your ride or dies? Who are your people who are super invested in the success of your firm? Who are your people who can share their opinions honestly, who you're going to listen to, who you respect, and who feel safe enough to tell you, the owner, the truth, and the truth about the business, the truth about your actions, the truth about the consequences of those actions. And so we came up with this idea of ride or dies, and sort of, look, as an ideal leadership team definitely has department heads in it, right? So, because if you're making a move, for example, if you're in a PI firm and the settlement team needs something, well, it may need to be fixed at intake. So you want both settlement and intake at the table talking about these things, right? And it gets to a point where it's like, you really want on your team. I don't think you want just lawyers. I don't think you want just the equity lawyers on the team, because I don't think you get a full enough perspective on things. We lawyers tend to be opinionated. We tend to have our own biases. We tend to have feelings about how things are or how things are going. And we tend to also be ignorant of what we do, which is, we may say, like, hey, we've signed up with this and we're doing this and it works amazing. And meanwhile, the people who are using it are like, this is an unusable mess of a product. And we hate our lives as a result of it. So, it gets to me where you really want diversity on your leadership team, which is diversity of experience is in your firm. Maybe you've got some people who are newer and some people who have been there for a while. You also want diversity of perspective, which is intake is, are you doing well? Are you doing not well? What about the paralegals? What about the lawyers? So you have sort of a 360 view up and down that organization. This team is a larger, not the largest team we work with, but a bigger team, a developed firm. And they had that in the room, and it was so helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, right. I think the hardest thing for lawyers when they're thinking about who to put on their team is sometimes setting, whether they realize it or not, setting the ego aside of, right, thinking that only the lawyers in the firm have something worthwhile to say, right? Because they are, you know, whatever reasoning they feel, oh well, we're the most educated, we have the most understanding of how the firm works or how the law works. It doesn't matter so much how the law works. It matters if you can understand how the business should work anyways, right? And it does it. It's not a one-to-one comparison of if you're a good lawyer, you're good at the business either. So yeah, that shouldn't be the end all be all of deciding, yeah, who should be at the leadership table. It should be the people that, right, understand what's important going on in the business and how to further the business along, right? And like you said, our ride or dies for it. They want to see it succeed, whether or not they have equity in it, which oftentimes is the most important thing, to find that those employees that, yeah, it's not about having the equity, and so they're it's at stake for them. It's they just love what they do every day, and they come to it and they want to see it succeed. And yeah, and they are in the daily grind of how the processes are actually working. So yeah, you want to understand their perspective, and they have often the most important takes on things. And ultimately, it builds up that trust even more with them, right? Because you are telling them, you see, the drive they have in it, you see the future that they're willing to invest in the firm too. So it's sort of a mutual and beneficial relationship on both ends in that sense.
Right. And one of the things that this firm leader did and built up trust over decades. And that's so critical. I mean, you could tell that there was genuine care built up over time and trust over time between him and his senior team members, which is I think critically important. But what I also think is incredibly important in this regard is that one of the things this leader said was truly, like, I don't know their jobs, right? And
Hmm.
one of the very first things that, we started doing was working with virtual case managers and training virtual case managers. This was actually before we had brought aboard Marissa. And one of the things I was explaining to them was, look, I'm a lawyer and I understand some of these things, but a paralegal is a separate professional role that has its own sort of task, its own sort of skills that, well, I have an idea of what those are and I have an idea of what the outcomes need to be. Like, don't assume that because I'm a lawyer, I really understand what legal professionals do or should be doing or how to best do it, right? That's really somebody who is in that position, who lives it day to day. And look, as many of our listeners, I built a firm by doing all the jobs, but I shed those jobs and I moved on to things like trial work or CEO work that I wasn't dealing with, pre-lit discovery issues or pre-litigation lien issues the way I was when I was starting out. So I get some distance between that. And I think it's very important for lawyers out there to humble themselves and to say, you know what? Like, my intake person is a professional in their own right. My paralegal is a professional in their own right. My accounting team or my settlement team or whatever you want to call it, they are professionals in their own right. Well, I know enough about it. I don't know the day to day on a given day. And I certainly don't know the changes, right? I don't know if we vetted a new software product. I may think it's great. I may think it's working, but they may have a separate opinion. And so you have basically 2 options. I mean, my recommendation is to strongly have a diverse team that represents the various facets of your firm, whatever it is you're doing at the table. And these are people who have earned it. These are people who are skilled. You don't want to just hire somebody and then throw them on your leadership team. I do think that that is a mistake. They need to be very respected in your firm. And I think you really want to create the space for them at that table, because if you don't, right, if you have, and we work with all sorts of different firms who take this every which way. If you don't do it, what ends up happening is you end up having a leadership meeting and then you're like, okay, Ryan, you go talk to Brittany marketing about this and then report back to us. Right. And so then you're getting a sort of level of one delay, you're getting hearsay and you're creating extra work that maybe doesn't need to be there. So if you're having marketing at your leadership meetings and you're talking about, maybe the demand is too high, maybe the demand is too low. What are some things that we can do here? You're getting, I think, a more holistic solution. You're getting a more holistic, at the very least, you should be getting a more holistic discussion. And you're also showing your team that they matter, that they matter, and they should, because they are the ones who are ultimately carrying out those tasks, and they are ultimately the ones who are implementing that vision. And sometimes when I talk to the heads of firms, like, there is a disconnect where it's like, I want this. I thought that I was clear. Why isn't this happening? And it's like, well, maybe people don't know, maybe they don't understand, maybe they're not bought in, maybe they don't see the larger picture. And including them, your champions on your team, I think is a way to really thread that needle.
Yeah, I think there's a balance that can be hard to find for some leaders, especially yeah, when it's a solo law firm owner who is trying to find that balance. And I get it that it can be hard, especially where you want to bring in the input of other people on the team that you trust. And you appreciate their takes on things. You definitely want to take them in and use them. And sometimes your takes are not always the right ones. And you should let other people help you make those decisions and really be thoughtful about it. And there are going to be times, right, where at the end of the day, you are the owner of the firm and you're the one who has the most at stake, right? Understandably, yes, there are going to be times where you take everybody's opinions and takes in, and then you say, I appreciate these. Here's what we're going to do instead, right? Because ultimately you do have to make decisions. That definitely can happen. I think it's important when those times have to happen, when you do still maybe have to negate what other people on your team are telling you we should do. You have to make sure you're doing it in a way that again still shows that respect you have for those people, right? You say, I appreciate everything you just brought to me. Here's what I'm going to do instead, and the why, right? With almost anything, it's always important to explain the why behind something you're doing to build that, to keep that trust and build the trust with your team, because there are obviously going to be moments on either end where it makes sense for you to still do the thing you're set on as the owner because it's the best interest for you and the firm as a whole. And then there definitely needs to be times where again, yeah, you need to be humble. You need to put any ego aside and realize, right, these other people who are actually doing these department jobs every day know better than I do about this particular topic. Not to bring it back to Taylor Swift, as I always do, but I actually was just listening to her. She just did an interview she was named as one of the 30, greatest songwriters of all time. And she said something that sort of resonates with this, which is she's proven herself, right, that she can write bangers all on her own, right? And she doesn't actually need any other collaborators and co-writers if she, so chose. Right? Number one albums and hits that were just solely her writing them. But at the same time, she herself said she loves working with other co-writers and collaborators, and she would not be as good as she is if she always just said, my take is the best take. My lyric is the best lyric, right? She very much takes in everybody else's suggestions and has built the trust with her longtime, co-writers and collaborators who are not afraid to say, that lyric's good, but here's one that I think works better. And they're willing to sort of fight their position on that. And she says, you're right. And she is willing to concede when she realizes someone else's take is better. But then again, ultimately, if there's times where she's dead set on something and knows that it's the right thing, she has the confidence in that too. So it's a perfect blend with leaders of building that muscle to realize when you're right, when your team is right, and how to collaborate together meaningfully.
Right, and it's a very hard one to learn,
Mhm.
because what you see with law firm owners or anybody who builds something, it is like, "Can do this. I can get this. I," and you can build massively successfully with that, right? But at some point, it becomes about us. It becomes about we. At some point, the organization shifts from being one person to being its own separate living thing. And as a leader, yeah, you have to pull rank sometimes. And sometimes you have to pull rank. I was reading a little bit of that interview. By the way, I think that I read that thing and it's like I think some of it's fake news. I mean, Noah Khan's not on it. Eddie Vedder's not on it.
It's of all
RZA is
time,
not on
though.
it. I know, but like that, some of these people who are on this, I whatever they make lists so people disagree
Yeah,
with who's put on the
to
list.
be fair, I didn't
I
really pay attention to anyone else on the list. I saw Taylor, I
yeah.
said, "Yes, that's correct. She deserves her place there."
Well, Taylor
But
does and
yeah.
Bob Dylan does, but like
Yeah.
anyhow, Noah Khan, he also, but but
He
here
just
nor there.
hasn't been around as long, so,
I know,
when
but
you've
some
had
of these,
a when you've spanned multiple decades at this point as a career, that's when you get to be considered, I think, you know?
okay, then there's no Eddie Vedder on the list, and
Okay.
I just feel
Maybe
like,
if he enunciated better in his songs.
and I'm not even gonna get into this one artist who they kept off the list because the artist is crazy, the songwriting is incredible, but I'm like, I think this person is better than Jay-Z in terms of an artist.
Well, yeah, the
I
Jay-Z
don't
one
think
was yeah,
yeah, but
yeah, yeah,
anyhow, Jay-Z is not the not who I would have gone with, not that
I
he's not
agree,
incredibly talented. Did
I agree.
I'm not getting into arguing with the New York Times, but I do think it becomes about us, and yes, at the end of the day, sometimes you have to be pulling rank, but I think you build trust. And I think if you're at all able to listen and reflect, it should make the idea better. Like, I don't think I've ever gone into a meeting with smart people, like I'll classify our best era team as smart people, where I don't have an idea where it doesn't come out better
Mhm,
through various avenues of feedback. And so, when you have those people on your team, you do want them in your room. And I think that matters more to me than the positions it is that they hold or the titles that they hold or the degrees that they hold. It is, is this person we're thinking about doing X? Is this person able to make X like X times three by adding something or by saying, no, we should scale this portion of it back. And I think leaders create space. I mean, that's what we heard from Ali Love at Lex Summit. I'm wearing an old school Legal X sweatshirt. I was thinking
ooh,
about
throwback.
very, very big. This may be a throwback to the original Legal X. I don't know. But anyhow, we will be at Lex Summit in San Diego on nice weather like this. And I think we might be sponsoring that. We might have a booth.
Yeah, we're still figuring it out, but hopefully we'll maybe be there, yeah, at a booth.
Well, we need a team. I do think we should hire San Diego Chippendales to be at our booth.
We might find better options in San Diego than we would in Utah.
Fair, fair. So anyhow, stop by the best era booth. You may see us or you may see Chippendales as our booth babes. We don't know. But I do think it is when somebody comes with an idea. And I also think it's important for the team to understand that I tell my law students this, which is that ideas need to be protected. They need to be, they're fragile sorts of things. And you need to have the comfort and trust to be able to bring an idea that's not fully thought out or an idea that's not perfect. And your team also needs to be willing to listen to why you are bringing that idea, not so much of this is my idea for this. And I think some of the dynamics I've seen play out on leadership teams that I've both been a part of and observed are lawyers. We like to take positions and then prove that we're right on that position. And maybe you are, maybe I am, but also, I don't think that may work well in a courtroom, but I don't think it works as well in a boardroom or a conference room where you're engaging in the business of law as opposed to the practice of law. And I think when you have that dynamic, which I observed with Marissa on Monday, you have a firm that has, they're a top, of all the firms in terms of operations, like it's like a top 1% kind of situation to get yourself into. And then if you have that in place, solving all of the logistical problems all of the, okay, we should add this, we should change this, we should move this workflow, we should hire here, we should, all of these sorts of moving pieces across the board, it becomes very easy. And when you have a leadership team that is dysfunctional or incomplete, or there's a lack of trust on the team, those sorts of, okay, we're going to move this here, become a lot harder to do because it's like you're operating through an incomplete or foggy lens at the problem. And I think, like, if you're out there and you don't have a leadership team, you need to have a leadership team. Even if you're a solo, you need to be your leadership team. Okay.
Hmm.
And you need to be thinking through business problems with more than just lawyers at the table, for sure. And I learned this at my first firm that I worked at, which is sadly now after like 70 years closing.
Oh,
One of my one of my old bosses having some health issues, and very sad, but they're closing. And one of the things I was having pizza with them last week, I think. And one of the things is that I noticed there was the leadership team, though they never called it that, was lawyers. Fine. I mean, look, they have a 70-year run in business. So they're doing a
right. They
ton
did
of things
something, right?
right. Right.
Yeah.
But the leadership team, like the paralegals had ideas that weren't heard. They weren't voiced in the room. And it created an us and them culture. And I actually just think it deprived them of opportunities to grow and to do things better and to make more money and to serve people better and to just make things better in general. So, but I think I think it's really important that you have you're making decisions with stakeholders in your firm. You're making decisions with experts in your firm, and you are cultivating an environment on that team of trust, respect, honesty, where people are able to directly raise the issues as opposed to dance around them. I often think when you have a dysfunctional leadership team, it becomes like, what aren't you going to talk about this weekend? What do you want to avoid talking about? I'm sorry, this week. What do you want to avoid? "Oh, we don't want to bring this up." That's when you know you have some trust issues on the team, which are very frankly hard to solve, not impossible to solve, but that needs to be addressed. And so, my big takeaway for anybody out there listening to this is making, and we don't have to, a leadership team may be even too fancy for some people, who is helping guide the business. You really want to involve people who are super invested, who can be honest with you, who you're going to listen to, who do things differently in your organization than you do them. And, I also think, at this table, gender, having different perspectives of gender, age, race,
Race.
all of those things can really matter to, I think, getting you a better result. And I was sitting at this team, and there were old and young, and there were Spanish speakers and non-Spanish speakers, and we had we had a very healthy balance of perspectives at that table. And when I sit there as an outsider, I'm like, no wonder this firm is very successful. Like all the marketing or the tech, the finan those things are always going to be opportunities to improve, always fixable, but if you don't get that right, you don't get anything right, and I think you end up with a lot better results, I mean, I've seen this too, where we've noticed, like, gender dynamics on teams too, where we
Oh,
work
yeah.
with all women leadership teams, and that's a whole different bag
Yes.
than
Yep.
all male leadership teams. These things really do matter. Like I don't come at it in sort of a equity kind of way or a political way or whatnot. I come at it in the fact that I believe to my core that you get better decisions made. You get more, you do better, you do it faster when you have that diversity at your table.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen it in multiple ways where a lot of firms out there, do well in spite of themselves. And once they get out of their own way and realize the things you just talked about, all of those things combined, they realize that they don't have to no longer just succeed in spite of themselves. They get to succeed in a way that actually is also enjoyable because like that's often what we see, right? Where the firm is doing fine or okay or even great, but again, it's in spite of themselves and their biggest problem is it's clear the firm owner isn't happy. Like there's something that they're just like stressed about. They're constantly still working, they're constantly still putting out fires, whatever it is. And yes, oftentimes the fix is things like opening up the team of who's thinking about moving the business forward because yeah, you're going to now get these opinions of ways to work smarter and not harder and yeah, it's not all on your shoulders as the firm owner anymore, right? Because you are being willing to let other people into those decisions and take some of that load off of you, which yeah, I think can be hard for people, but it's so important to, like I said, do all of those things, trust others, open it up to a diverse crowd in your firm, and we also understand that not everyone has a ton of people. Sometimes it really is just a solo. Of course, that's where sometimes, we enjoy coming in too, right? We have some clients who it is really sort of just them and they understand, like, I still need a sounding board. It's very important to not just live in my own head. So it's nice to be able to work with some of those clients who, us as an outside observer can also help be that sounding board. We have a diverse team in that sense that can help do that for you too. So, yes, I think those firm owners are all the ones that take this advice and create those correct leadership teams are setting themselves up for a lot of success and a lot of growth and a lot of great things in their future. And I agree with you that a huge metric of like if it's working or not, or like if it feels right, is are you looking forward to your leadership meeting every week or are you dreading it? Because if you're dreading it, then something's really off. And like we need to take a good hard look at as to why and what's going on. Is it something that's salvageable or is it something that we need to really figure out what to do with this? Because like you've said, Ryan, we've seen it. We've been on those sorts of teams, and it's just such an easy metric. In theory, it's an easy metric to have. But because it involves you having to admit some maybe scary feelings sometimes can be hard.
Right. And I mean, we have helped. There's one situation where we helped the firm untangle itself
Right.
by having and facilitating those conversations. And it said like, look, this isn't working. It can't work. And everybody went off in their own ways, and everybody is much, much happier as
Thriving.
a result of it. And, so but those are the sorts of things like, yes, that is where we can add value. And, I always tell anybody I work with that the one thing I need you to accept from me is I'm going to tell you what I see, how I see it, and why I see it. That may or may not meld with what you want to hear, your vision of how your team is or how things are, but I'm going to tell you and as an outsider the truth as to what it is that I see. And that can be incredibly helpful for people. But yeah, so so this is I think the only podcast episode I've ever heard where we really drill down into this issue of, you know, leadership of a law firm,
Mhm.
who is on that team, how those decisions get made. Obviously, pick up a copy of The Way. We published it for 9.97 on Amazon, which we had written as an internal manual after working with some firms and realizing that this was a real problem, real opportunity to grow. And the firms that implement it, we've designed it to be able to be implemented yourself, are able to really grow, get traction, and do very, very well for themselves. And, on slightly similar but sort of different notes, we are going to be diving deep into these sorts of things. Well, not maybe not that deep, but we just put our Revolutionary Era on sale up in Boston for the massive price of $297. It is a complete event. It's going to be at Suffolk University on July 1st in Boston. It'll be toasty, but you will be near the sea. So get a nice little sea breeze. Spend the day at Suffolk University going over things exactly like this, like leadership teams, and how to build it and how to sort of operate that. That is something that I will touch on certainly in my book, which will be given out as a copy. I mean, like a book and a course like this, limited to 64 people. Brittany or Pam put the Zoho link in there because I know we're going to have a lot of people who want to attend that. And we've got our AI era event, which is first week in November in Charleston. And, one of the things I think I'm trying to put on, you know, put together the speakers. I've got some great diverse speakers that we are lining up, I think, for an amazing event. And one of the things, I was sort of doing before I got on this call, right, was building a living artifact dashboard of our for our leadership team of our financial data and churn and projections and where are we on our metrics and our percentages. So, maybe we can do a conversation on AI for your leadership teams and using it in that way. That agenda is all TBD. This is sort of like shooting a bullet at a bullet,
Yeah.
because the AI is moving so fast. But at any rate, we're going to deliver relevant, timely, and deep content for where things are in November, no matter how challenging it is to plan it right now.
Yes.
But
And those
with that,
tickets, we only have like maybe less than 30, I
yeah,
think,
it's gonna sell
just
out.
so people know. For in person, obviously there's also the virtual ticket options. So, you know, if
Huh.
it's too hard to get to Charleston in person, we do have the virtual options, but as far as in person seats go,
I was thinking too, like we should go down to Charleston like soon. Maybe next
to
Friday. Maybe we'll do our best Air Day in Charleston. Like,
just
maybe
hop
we'll
a
hop on
quick
Breeze.
flight.
But because we're coming up with some meal ideas and maybe like a battle of the barbecues down
Yeah,
there,
that's
that we
true.
may need we
You
may
know,
need
we've
to
only tasted yeah, we haven't tasted all of them, so we wanna make sure we're delivering the best options, so
we definitely do, and they were talking about some, like, seafood broil or something? I don't know.
yeah, on the beach, you can do, like, a seafood boil thing that, like, comes to you, a bonfire situation. I've always actually wanted to do a seafood boil thing, so
Well,
who knows?
we've gotta figure out some of these options and
Yeah.
maybe test some of the test some it's Lewis Barbecue and, uh,
Oh, yeah, Lewis
who
Scott
did we order the
and
other one?
or no, Rodney Scott and
Lewis.
Lewis, yeah, are the 2, right? I think
So
that go head to head, yeah.
we probably are gonna do that, but I think we have to make sure that Lewis is on par. I mean, the case studies people tell us it's better, but
Possibly.
I don't
I
these
think
are our
it's
guests,
dependent too on your if you like more of the Carolina barbecue versus more of like a Texas feel, I don't know. So people have strong opinions.
and, Charleston is also a sauna and a half from June to October, so I feel like maybe as we talked about at our leadership meeting, what are we doing for our best era turns to best era day? Maybe I will convince the powers that be, my bosses, to hop on a breeze flight and fly to Charleston.
Well, maybe if we get some people buying tickets in our comments, then we can
Maybe we can justify
afford a
it.
quick yeah.
I did my financial dashboards.
I know.
We can definitely afford it.
I'm kidding. I'm
But
kidding.
anyhow, those are things that are coming up for us. So we hope to see you. We hope to our paths cross with you in this year because this year is definitely booking up. I'm in
I know. I
there going to
can't
be in
believe it.
Orlando in 2 weeks, and I'm going to be at Pilma,
Mhm.
and we got places to go in
Like
June. You're
all
going to
over
be in
summer,
Provincetown in
yeah.
July. I'm going to be in We're gonna be in Boston in July. We're gonna
Austin.
be in, uh, Omaha, Nebraska.
Mhm.
We're gonna be in San
Yep.
Diego. I mean, we got
All over.
a lot of sort of stuff coming up, that kinda feels like it takes us through the end of the year. But, we hope to see you, at some point and, in-person events. Oh, by the way, this is a great way to end this one. I saw on Anthropic had posted a job ad, and they were
Oh,
paying
yeah.
$400,000 for an in-person events coordinator.
Right?
But it really just tells you how important that is, right? Like, how
Mhm.
important from a marketing perspective, you have a tech company that has all this traction, and what are they doing to market their product? It's not Google Ads, it is literally, uh, events, right? And I was thinking about this, and I was like, Conrad and Guy, who will be at AI Era doing a podcast, we confirmed them. By the way, I have to do a Seahawks jersey podcast with them tomorrow
Oh, yeah.
because I lost my Super Bowl bet. Yeah, not looking forward to that, but I can't get too mad at the Seahawks. I just can't. But
I feel
but
like
anyhow,
they're a good team.
but but like, they're not like the Ravens or something where I can hate them, or even the Steelers. Like, it's like, okay, the Seahawks, the Cardinals won, I don't care. So I gotta do that, but they're gonna be there. But, it's one of these things where even in, this AI world, and especially with the commoditization of AI slop on things like LinkedIn and social media, like, I think, they talk a lot about dark web, Conrad does, and it's really or dark social, but it's really like, what are people saying about you in the text messages?
Hmm.
Like, what are people saying about you there, that matters? And I think, to that end, it's like it is community. So get some community. Join us in Boston. You're going to be in a room full of awesome people. Charleston in a room full of awesome people, and you're going to get things you cannot get anywhere else. Events matter for your marketing. They matter for us. We definitely see the opportunity, and we see the demand, that we are getting with what it is that we are doing, and we're trying to think through that conceptually for what it means for our business. So, with
Absolutely.
that said, we close out on what are you watching, listening to?
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, obviously, I know we both are still obsessed with our Noah Khan album, but I did watch the 30-minute interview with Taylor Swift from the New York Times journalist that interviewed her. It was a fantastic interview. I mean, obviously, I understand I'm biased as a Swiftie, but I just love when, it's very rare that we get to hear for such long periods of time her speak, especially about her craft. And that's really the whole 30 minutes was about her craft and her methods of songwriting and her inspirations. And so it was so interesting to hear her talk about how she really does have such an eclectic sort of taste of artists that she, is inspired by and pulls from, from obviously her early roots of storytelling classic country artists to her, the emo bands, Dashboard Confessional and Fall Out Boy, and the ways that the lyricism that they pull into their music, and just, all across the board. It was so interesting to hear her talk. So highly recommend it, just from when you get to like sort of be inside an artist's mind. It's so interesting to me. And yeah, so it was really good.
Well, I will have to watch that. And to bridge the gap from what we're going to talk about, a friend texted me, or I saw maybe on social media. See on my phone, on my screen.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
like somebody said, "Thank you, Noah Khan, for writing Evermore for Men."
Oh, yes, I
Agree
did
or
see that.
disagree?
Yes.
Agree?
Agree. No, completely. I mean, I draw so many comparisons to them, and yeah, my threads is, of course, like, every time something slightly Taylor comes up, of course, my whole algorithm is all that, and of course, it's like the haters and the Swifties and stuff. But and I think Noah, like the thing is, like I keep seeing the things where it's like it's so disrespectful to compare Noah to Taylor, and it's sort of like, is that is that just a misogynistic take that you're going there with? Because I'm pretty sure if he was being compared to one of the greatest male artists, of all time, no one would be like batting an eye. And, why would if I was being compared to anyone who's one of the most successful people in the world, why would I not take that as a compliment? And also, first of all, The Great Divide was literally produced and, co-written with Aaron Dessner, who produced and co-wrote Evermore and Folklore. So of course they sound the same or similar, have the same vibes. Again, yes, like the answer is an obvious yes. Like they are very much similar, and Noah's not trying to hide it. He's an open, fan of Taylor. He's talked about how he would love his dream collab would be with Taylor. Yeah, it's it definitely is the male Folklore Evermore. Actually, someone I even saw said it's folk because people call Folklore and Evermore sister albums. They said, "We finally found the brother album," and I completely agree. Like it totally is. So I
Do I
agree.
have this right, that Folklore or Evermore are your favorite albums from Taylor? Or is that
I
my daughter?
No, gosh, Evermore is probably my number one. Yes,
Okay.
Evermore is. And my number, two and three, I'd say Summertime. I'm like, give me the Folklore because I'm in that vibe. But I don't know if there's a number two. Oh, Evermore, 100%. All of like my favorite songs are definitely on Evermore. But pretty much every day my mood changes, which is why I love her discography, because whatever mood you're in, there's a song for it.
That there
When
is.
you have 250 songs, it's kind of hard to not be able to have a song that makes sense for almost any day of the year.
Well, and I mean, she spans genre too, which is
Exactly.
we go from
Exactly.
country to folk to rock to pop, and yeah, she's got a very
Exactly.
diverse catalog for sure. So for me, I am listening on absolute repeat to Noah Kahan's The Great Divide, and I think it is absolutely fantastic. And one of the two things to end on this is I love looking on Reddit where everybody's like, "What's your favorite song?" And everybody's are different, right? And so
Well, I know.
usually, like, you get an album out and there comes some consensus as to, like, this is the
The
best
best
song
one.
and these are the best songs, and here, everybody's like, "I really like Dan, I really like Doors," and it's, like, all over the place, which is a real, I think, testament to the strength of the album as a whole, and I
Mhm.
enjoy it as an album, which is something I really love. I think that I grew up listening to albums, and there's sort of a TikTok movement of, 3 seconds, 3-minute singles, and you just don't get that depth, and I think he delivered the depth, and then when he released on Friday night the additional bonus songs,
Mhm.
it made it, like, filled it out, like, the album was
Yes.
robust, so you get, like, an hour and 40 minutes of an experience, and highly, 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 highly recommend that. Excited to see him this summer.
Well, so then what's your favorite song?
Oh, man, I
I know mine has
really
been changing with every listen, I think, but
I really like the Tom Petty vibes of American Cars. I
yeah.
think that is, like that is a sort of Tom Petty in the best way, rocker, pop,
Mhm.
like, I think that that song kills. I do really like Paid Time Off as well, and I mean and
Me too, especially when it switches from just that sort of, like, slow burn situation, and then all of a sudden you've got that banjo sort of stomp and holler sitch going on. I love
but
it.
I mean, the end of August, I mean, the lyrics on
Yes,
that, like, I mean,
I
that
know.
alone, like, all the bugs are gonna die, like, all the like, this like, I'm like, "Oh, geez," and September comes and I'm going off my medicine, like, I'm like,
Yes.
"Whoa."
Yep.
That's a whole thing, the whole
Yeah.
album.
I've been secretly this the one that's actually been playing in my head a lot because it's catchy too is "Haircut." I actually really like that one.
Haircut, Downfall, I mean,
Yeah.
like, the whole thing, Doors, like, I mean,
Mhm.
I love it.
No,
I
it's all
love it
great. It's all so
all.
good. Yeah.
Allison really loves what do you love, Allison? Willing and Able.
Well, that one's good too. Yeah, I know. It's just like every single episode, every single song, on the album is just when you're like reminded of it, you're just like, oh yeah, that's a great one too.
Yeah.
And again, like that's why I don't think would be upset by having the comparisons of being like Taylor Swift because that's the same way most people feel about like the ones who don't just listen to the radio hits and yeah, actually take the time to listen to a full album. That's when you start to realize like, oh yeah, this is a no skip album, you know? It's just each one hits a certain like something in you and you just yeah, it's so good. It's so so good.
I mean, The Great Divide is amazing as a song,
Yeah.
as I mean, that was
Porchlight, I
already
mean, yeah,
obviously
both of
picked
the
Porchlight,
singles, yeah.
and then, I mean, Talia, my daughter, loves All Them Horses, and that's an amazing song.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
that song
That
reminds
one is
me
good
of
too.
The View Between Villages and the way it builds,
Yes.
like, yeah, just go listen to this album.
Mhm.
This isn't a Noah Kahn stan podcast. I'm sure you can find plenty of people on TikTok, YouTube, standing Noah Kahn and this album as it should be done, but anyhow, enough Noah Khan for our legal-oriented but also, one last thing,
But
bring
wait,
it
one
back
more thing.
one more thing to bring it back into the tangible, right? Like, he has, you know arguably and Taylor does the same thing, right? He
Mhm.
follows the Taylor Swift marketing. So he
Right.
does, like, signed CDs and signed vinyl, like, that's a whole thing. Special edition vinyl. In fact, the one we got on the first day it went for sale, like, it's $150 now on eBay.
I know.
I mean, but
Crazy.
so we've got the tactile, like, Own the Music, right? And then we've got the Target exclusive, and then we've
Mhm.
got the concert tickets, which are all sold out. And it's really sort of, I think, an interesting thing, and the documentary being I think as raw as it is and not sort of overproduced,
Hmm.
listen think about that from a marketing perspective for your firm, because I think it's
Absolutely.
incredibly relevant.
I absolutely
Well,
agree. All
we
right,
went a
we'll
lot
end it
longer
here.
than usual, and, it is time
What
for
we
lunch.
said, I'm pretty sure we said in the beginning, this will be a short one today.
All right, Brittany.
All right, talk to you soon.